Hello, I'm Richard with EV4U Custom Conversions, and welcome to another episode featuring the Volkswagen Double Cab Transporter. This will be next to the last episode in this series. The last episode will be the range testing, so hope you join us for that. In this episode, we're going to do an overview of the vehicle and go for a test drive. So let's get to it. So first off, we'll do a quick little walk around. This is a 1991 Volkswagen Double Cab Transporter, and this one's in good condition. And you really can't tell that it's not gasoline powered, with the exception of perhaps you get far enough back here, we can see, let me drop down, you can see the cross member. That's the rear engine mount. We've retained that and we're using it as a rear mount for the motor. That was originally covered by the exhaust and a heat shield. There's the muffler. Long muffler. The other clue that this is no longer internal combustion, the little placard that says it's electric. But other than that, the stance and everything else looks just like it did originally. But there's one other clue that something's different. The owner didn't want us to have the charge port where the gas filler was, which is typically what we do. So those are your only clues that this is not a factory internal combustion transporter. Now in the front, after the radiator was removed and the heating system installed, we blocked off the radiator intake, so that's just all black now. That's a high impact ABS plastic in there. Gives it a nice clean and aerodynamic look. Had removed the grill to get the radiator out. So let's take a couple glances at some of the features that make these transporters kind of unique. A cool feature of the transporter is that the tailgate and the sides all go down. And they do so very quickly and easily. And give you easy access to the bed, either from the sides or from the back. There's also a step. Volkswagen had that long before Ford ever thought of it. So it gives you a nice loading and unloading and work surface, whatever. Great feature, love it. Another cool feature of the transporter is the cargo area underneath the bed, commonly referred to as the treasure chest. This model has a door on both sides. And that's where the 38 Calb 180 cells are located, as well as the charger, our safety interconnect, shunt, and fuses. The cells are on glides, and so they come out for, that's how we installed them, and for inspection they slide right on out. Very cool feature. Like I said, just a really neat vehicle. The engine compartment door is that opening's rather small. Basically, you can get in here to do a visual inspection, check fluids, that type of thing. In this scenario now that it's electric, we still have power steering fluid to check. We've got controller coolant level to check, and our service disconnect. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the hatch cover, which is in the bed here. We'll remove the hatch cover and give you a better view of the engine compartment, or motor compartment now. So 4 bolts allow us access to the top here through the hatch cover. And the 38 Calb 180s are providing power to our AC 75 motor from High Performance Electric Vehicle Systems. That's coming through the Curtis 1238-7601 650 amp inverter. In the corner over here we have our vacuum pump and reservoir, service disconnect, main contactor, wiring board, coolant reservoir. This is recycled from the original setup. It has good capacity, and so help keep costs down, so we reuse that. On the other side here we have our power steering pump being powered by an electric motor. Behind it is our pump for the cooling system. We take the coolant from the reservoir, goes through the pump, goes through the chill plate that the inverter is mounted to. From there it goes through a cooler that is underneath the motor. From there it goes through a radiator that's mounted above the transaxle, which has fans on it, and from there back to our reservoir. Let's take a look at the cockpit area. Not a lot has been changed here. Looks, not stock, but not outrageous. What we have up here in the dash is the rear window defroster, emergency flashers, and this is now for the heater. Switching that on turns on an element in a reservoir that heats coolant that then flows through the stock heater core and provides heat. Works very well. This is a dual element reservoir. So when we flip that switch, the light comes on as a reminder. It flips a contactor which provides power to one of the heating elements and turns on a pump for cycling that. And right here we have a switch next to the stock heating controls that allows us to switch from high to low. Switching it to high turns on the second contactor and element and heats this thing up rather quickly. Then we have the Curtis gauge that gives us volts, amps, RPMs, motor temperature, controller temperature. 12 volt gauge next to that, just to monitor our auxiliary battery and DC to DC converter, and the JLD 404, which monitors our pack volts, amps, and amp hours. We also use the switching from J1 and J2 to control the controller as well as the charger. So this pack shuts, the JLD shuts the pack off, shuts the charger off I should say, half a volt before the charger would shut down on its own at 3.5 volts per cell. So it's kind of a backup setup, a little redundancy there. And this also shuts off at pack low voltage to protect the pack. And there is an emergency stop switch. And a little reminder of the controls for the customer. This is held on with a magnet, as is this little chart right here, which gives him the basically state of the pack. But it's held on with magnets and can be removed if so desired. So there's also, as I mentioned, inside the treasure chest, a safety interlock so that when it's plugged in, the vehicle cannot be moved, it's disabled. Another safety feature I didn't show you when we were in here earlier, and that's the inertia switch right there, easy to get to, mounted on a solid portion of the vehicle, so if the vehicle is involved in an accident, it will disable the electronics. Another feature to mention is the power steering. You have the ability to shut it on and off manually. So when this switch is on, anytime you turn on the ignition, power steering is on, the motor's on that runs the pump. I don't use it. This thing steers very easily without it. But if you get in a tight parking spot or something, flip it on, you instantly have power steering, and then it steers extremely easily. And so it doesn't use a lot of juice. It pulls, when you're going straight, about 0.9 amps, and when turning about 3, at lock about 5 amps. So not a major consideration on your range in regards to power steering. So there you have a quick overview of the conversion of this 1991 Volkswagen double cab transporter. So now let's go for a little spin. Alright, let's go for a little spin. We'll do our usual. We'll run from the shop here to the Sundial Bridge in Reading. Round trip about 18 miles. Majority of that on Interstate 5. This thing will spin the tires in first gear. We don't use first gear normally, just take off in second. This thing has brisk acceleration and it's worlds better than it was as in internal combustion vehicle. It originally had a 2.1 liter fuel injected water boxer engine, which, you know, doesn't sound too bad, but for this vehicle it just wasn't enough. It's got low gearing, and so at 63 miles an hour, which is what we did our range testing at, we were turning 3,360 RPMs. 45, we're doing about 2,400. Power brakes make for a light touch on the pedal, as well as the regenerative braking. It's a very pleasant vehicle to drive. I wouldn't mind keeping this one. It make a great shop truck. But it gets up to 55. Lickety split, no problem. Fair amount of road noise in this thing. Without the engine rattling away, that's what we hear. That squeaking. The owner of the vehicle put a sheet of plywood in the floor here in the van, and we hear that kind of squeaking. In our range test video, we will report the motor temperature, the controller temperature, amp hours, so forth, when we start. And then we go down Interstate 5, I think it was about 18 miles, and then we pulled off the freeway, took a reading on those items again, the controller temperature, motor temperature, amp hour status, and then left there, drove back to the shop, and gave you those readings again. So, hope you join us in that video. I think you'll find it quite interesting. This vehicle actually surprised us, and but I don't want to tell you too much at this point. The thing doesn't lean as much as it did originally. Having a little weight in the center of the vehicle really helps. There's 60 miles an hour, 65. And that's what we'll run in this. Normally in the Karma Gia I run 70 to 75, but this is just a little different type of vehicle, so we're going to take her easy. This thing was driven a little bit yesterday. I don't know what the status is on this. Okay, we're starting off. We've already consumed almost 19 amp hours. And we haven't consumed that just since we left the shop, but that's with what we've used and what the status was when we got the vehicle this morning. This wasn't charged last night, so a little bit of driving yesterday, I guess, and that's what it was when we started. So we weren't starting with a full pack on this run. Right now it's 65 miles an hour. Not really level ground, a slight incline. We're pulling about 166 amps from our pad. Drove this the other day. It was very windy, and the wind was out of the north, so heading south did real well.
coming back, we were consuming a little more electrons than normal. These things kind of get tossed around in the wind too. But I've really enjoyed driving this car. It was a fun one to convert. Everything kind of had a place and just like it was meant to be. So those are always fun. A little bit of a grade here, or a pretty good grade here. We're actually pulling over 200 amps. Got traffic coming up behind me. Let me give a little throttle here. Here's 70. Has enough power that it accelerates easily. It also gives you a good feel for the deceleration if you're letting off the throttle and the regen. It's just a very nice setup. I know I've said that a few times already, but I really enjoy this vehicle. This conversion turned out absolutely perfect. We hadn't used the AC75 before. This is the first time we've used that in the conversion. And didn't know exactly what to expect. But I tell you, I'm really pleased. For a vehicle this size and weight, it works perfect. Take a look at amp hour status here. We're at 32.4 consumed. It's a 180 amp hour pack, which means we have 144 amp hours usable. So you can see we're not even scratching the surface at this point. nice, beautiful day in Shasta County, California. There's the vacuum pump on. Got my foot on the brake. And it's off. And we are too. Back east, heading for the I-5 interchange, where we'll go north and back to the shop. So this thing, we've already put about 300 miles on it. This is probably one of our last little drives in it prior to delivery. We do have to install a cable shifting setup for the owner. That finally came in this week, so we'll install that. There's some adjustment and testing that needs to be done with that. We can do all that within the industrial park. I don't like driving customers' vehicles. It always makes me nervous. Insurance is great and everything, but it doesn't make things perfect. Usually run them 250, 300 miles, make sure there's no issues. And then they go in one of the units and stay there till they're delivered. So this one's going to go sit next to Bob, our bug, in our staging area. For the last few items to be done on this. see that. Got a thumbs up from the guy that had to fly by us right before the off-ramp there. It wasn't the finger I was going to show him. But this vehicle really gets a lot of good comments. Everybody seems to like it. I'm used to a lot of attention driving around. I normally drive an orange Carmen Ghia, which is electric. But this car is real popular also. Lots of good feedback from the public. Through the gears more briskly than it did originally. And because you can just pull in a parking spot or whatever with the clutch out and everything, it makes it a lot more pleasurable to drive. Up on the shop, 62 amp hours. I wasn't driving real conservative, I wasn't going crazy, but I wasn't watching my amp hour, watching my amps like I normally would, because normally I let off, and to the point where I have the least amount of throttle to maintain speed, which is, the efficient way to drive. This outing I didn't do that, and I noticed a couple times I would catch myself and I'd start to do that, and you could drop quite a few amps and maintain speed. So there is kind of a consciousness to driving an electric vehicle if you want to get the maximum efficiency out of it. Right here I can let off and come to a stop without even using the brakes. In first gear and reverse it does it right away because we got the gearing. But even in second gear it came to a stop, and this is a slight downgrade right here, just very slight, but the water and everything runs that direction. And letting off the throttle, rolls to a stop. So anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you continue to follow not only this episode, but future episodes. And we'll see you next time.